Democrats we spoke to here in battleground Pennsylvania, the president's birthplace, said the report would change their plans to vote for Biden a second time.
I think in terms of the policy and kind of where the country's going right now, I'll favor him.
Theater manager Rob Cash telling us he's also convinced by Biden's likely opponent. Do you still think he's head and shoulders over the other guy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other guy's a joke. Trump is a joke. I'm sorry. He was a joke.
What you just saw is a trend that's taking place across the country, which we've been covering here for some time now at the MeidasTouch Network. Republicans, independents, Democrats revolted by Donald Trump. And one of the things we've covered here at the MeidasTouch Network is how Republicans and independents who have voted Republican before are no longer doing so because the Republican Party has left them. It's gone full MAGA. So if I may, let me share some of the recent stories that I've received here at the MeidasTouch Network from people who are no longer voting for Republicans or no longer voting for Trump because they stand for nothing, fall for everything, and are affirmatively trying to harm our country. Abstract Impressions writes to us at the MeidasTouch Network, I was a registered Republican since the age of 18. I am 61 now. I hated Trump way before he got involved in politics, so I couldn't stomach voting for him in 2016. Since then, I have changed and am now a Democrat all the way, still trying to convince my family to join me. I will vote blue from now on. And here's what I would say. Just focus on the pro-democracy side of this, the pro-democracy community right here. And look, I think 42% of the country right now identify as independents. And for the first time, I think ever, the recent Gallup poll showed that independents are leaning Democratic. But I think if you look beneath the hood and look deeper, you have so many Americans who are just repulsed at Donald Trump's behavior. And like that, President Biden is a normal elder statesman who's in a worksman-like way just doing the work for the country. Whereas with Donald Trump, you have somebody who is unhinged, deranged, and engages in very, very, very bizarre and dangerous behavior. You have Aaron Pratt Miller writes, I'm 61 and feel exactly the same. I couldn't change my affiliation quick enough when he was first nominated. He's always been a degenerate con man. Robert Wagner writes, I'm a former Republican who voted for Reagan and Bush. I'm 67 and saw Trump coming a mile away. I proudly voted for Joe Biden, and I'm so glad I did. My dad was a 32-year Army veteran who joined the Army at 17 and served for 32 years, fought in World War II. Trump's disrespect for the military and his lying, cheating, and stealing have driven me to vote for Biden, and now I am so glad I did. Gemma writes, I have been a Republican all my life. I voted for Trump in 2016, and he taught me a lesson to be more involved in your politics. For me, red is dead. KLT writes, I can no longer support the childish, selfish, anti-democratic, anti-American, destructive, immoral, illegal, hate-filled, discriminatory antics of the Republican Party. I'm committed to active voting against those supporting these approaches. Lifelong, and then here's from Stephen Karras, who writes, lifelong Republican, voted Trump in 2016, voted Biden in 2020, and changed my party to Democrat because of MAGA. I'm blue till I die. Sandy writes, my husband voted for Trump in 2016, and I almost divorced him over it. But he got wise within the first year of Trump's presidency. He promised never to vote for him again, and he didn't. I'm a never Trumper because I could see exactly who he is and what he is, the biggest threat to democracy in my lifetime. I'm in my 60s. Vote blue. Renee writes, my 74-year-old Republican father went blue in 2020 to get big bully Donald out of office. Not only that, my daughter even registered to vote blue and sat for hours at home combing through her first mail-in ballot to get the horrible man out. My beloved grandpa, who I miss every day since his passing, fought in World War II for democracy in our country and would love to meet Mr. Bully face to face if he were able to just show him what a real man is. The least my family can do is vote blue in his honor for the sacrifice my grandpa made and that ignoramus orange man disgrace. I'll just share with you a personal story that I may not have shared before in the MeidasTouch Network. My grandpa was a tail gunner in World War II for the B-29 bomber. And, I think about the sacrifices he makes each and every day. That's one of the motivating factors behind building this pro-democracy media network. Emmanuel Mota writes, I grew up a Republican in a Republican household, but I would never vote for Trump. It was obvious from the 2015 presidential debates there was something seriously wrong with this guy. I'm an independent now, the way things are going with Trump, MAGA, the right-wing Supreme Court, and the continuing fascist trend of the Trumpists. I will never vote Republican again. Jonathan Weber writes to me, Ben, I was a Republican voter for 50 years, but a guy that I work with pointed out all the false statements and what the Republicans were doing, so now I vote blue. J. Ambrosius writes, I have been a Republican and voted across party lines since I was 18. I have considered myself as a never-Trumper since 2016, and in 2020 I voted Democrat for the first time only to vote out the MAGA politicians. I'm still conservative, but I don't like what the Republican Party has become. And J. Ambrosius, as you know, we interview a lot of conservatives here, and as I say, MAGA is not conservative. MAGA equals fascism plus idiocracy. I mean, I did an interview here with the Republican governor of Arkansas, the former Republican governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson. We had a great conversation. We respectfully disagreed on issues. We recognized the importance of our democracy. I've had great conversations with former Republican Congress member Adam Kinzinger here, where we've had important discussions about our democracy. And as I've said before, I think it is important in this pro-democracy community to be very inclusive of views that are authentically conservative and authentically mainstream Republican, not the MAGA mutation, welcoming to independents, welcoming to progressives, welcoming to liberals. We should all get along and support, protect, and defend our democracy and our Constitution, not this MAGA mutation that idolizes this bizarre kind of cult leader. Let me read you some more comments because these are so heartwarming to me. Daryl Waggers 825 writes, voted Republican 40 years, can't stand the orange monster, anti-democratic, vote blue. Jeffrey Hall writes, thank you, Ben. I've been a registered Republican for most of my 70 years and mistakenly voted for Trump in 16, never again. Biden is a gem of a person. J.D.Y. Wolf writes, Ben, why don't you run for office? This country would be so lucky to have you in our leadership. We need more people like you in our... I like doing what I'm doing right now. I like spending the time with you on these YouTube videos. That's how I have fun, and that's what I want to devote my life to. Diane writes, I'm 64 and never followed politics until 2020, and only because I wanted news about the pandemic. I didn't know anything about Trump and couldn't believe my ears when I heard him speak. It was obvious to me that he was a narcissist. He said the same things as my son. Voted against him in 2020 and will vote against him again in 2024. I live in Trump country and I can't believe that people support this buffoon. Thanks, Ben, for all of your work. Miranda Hillman writes, my husband was a Republican for the majority of his life and was registered as one for 45 years. We're both now registered as independents. He voted for Biden in the last election and plans to vote blue across the board in 2024. Trump will never gain either of our votes. The current Republican Party is not the party of our parents, and neither of us have any interest in supporting them, despite our upbringing. Anecdotally, my father, 71, has also been a lifelong Republican and has never voted blue until the last election. Moreover, he will not vote for Trump under any conditions in 2024. For me, that says more than any poll could report. Chase Y says, thank you for your network, Ben. I was fooled in 2016, but 2020 and 2024, I voted Biden. No more MAGA. I appreciate you telling us the truth and proving MAGA are liars. Go Biden, go. Mitzi writes, I'm 55-year-old female who's registered as a Republican, very young and uninformed. I vote across party lines and never felt the need to change my party affiliation until Trump ran in 2016. After he won the nomination, I immediately went online and changed my affiliation to independent. I found myself voting more Democratic and now will not vote a Republican because I can't trust anything they say. They force me to stick to a party line, so that's Democrat. I'm so glad I found the MeidasTouch and appreciate each and every video promoting democracy. Thank you to the entire MeidasTouch team. Ellen writes, I have been a Republican in a Democrat family. I have to admit I will split my vote. I do research on candidates and vote for the person who will do the job on behalf of the citizens in the USA. I never trusted or voted for Trump. I live in New Jersey and have watched him my entire life and cannot understand how he won in 2016. And I called his response as we came up on the 2020 election. I told someone he would try to overthrow the government when he came to our senses and voted him out. Just from watching his behavior as I grew up, voting blue this election. Chico Dog writes, Republican since 1969, left the party when I first saw Trump. I never thought I would, but I voted for Hillary. Trump never represented the Republican Party, what it used to stand for. Kathy writes, I'm an independent. I always say that I vote for the candidate that least offends me, which of course means that I will never vote for anyone MAGA or an election denier. I never voted for nor will vote for Trump because I heard too many stories about how he didn't pay his contractor. He disgusts me. And here's the thing, I'll show you right now, folks, as well. I mean, here's Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. This was on Friday, where he is bragging about killing the border deal. Like, there's a bipartisan border deal between Republicans and Democrats to reach a solution, and Trump kills it because he's trying to harm the country. Here, play this clip.
But you give illegal taxpayer-funded lawyers, so they have millions of dollars in this agreement, in this deal, which we, by the way, killed. I think we killed it. I think it's dead. But you can never say it because bad bills always come back to life because these guys make a lot of money with bad bills. But they give millions, tens of millions of dollars, it's down there, to lawyers to represent the illegal immigrants that come into our country. It's not even believable.
And by the way, here's a clip of Donald Trump here saying, again, just weird, unhinged lies that if Democrats win the election, if Biden wins, they're going to rename Pennsylvania. Play the clip.
We have to win in November, or we're not going to have Pennsylvania. They'll change the name. They're going to change the name of Pennsylvania.
I mean, as bizarre and unhinged as you get. It's repulsive. And while Donald Trump and MAGA acts like that, I mean, that was Friday. That was Friday. You've got President Biden talking about protecting Social Security and making sure that there could be, that Medicare can negotiate to lower prescription drug prices and to reduce the price of insulin throughout the country. You got President Biden focused on making sure that there are better paying jobs. We have 40,000 infrastructure projects up across the country. You have the stock market hitting record highs while unemployment's at record lows. And this is good data, and we want to hire people who act normal and behave normal. I mean, look, I don't know about you. I like to have an elder statesman who is stable and who's focused on the country than have like a ridiculous, unhinged madman in Donald Trump who talks about being a dictator and quotes Adolf Hitler and brags about his relationship with Putin and Kim Jong-un and brags about killing border deals. I mean, that's absurd. That's just absurd. It's every aspect of it's disqualifying. But here's the thing. We're not alone. And I know with all of the other media gaslighting that sometimes you probably feel alone. You're not. Okay, this is the real silent majority in the country. And I want you to be aware of that. And I want you to share these stories because I want other people to know that this is okay to talk about this. We love our democracy. We love our Constitution. We love our flag. And we know that Donald Trump poses a threat to all of that. We know that Donald Trump coddles Vladimir Putin. We know that Donald Trump looks up to Kim Jong-un. We know that Donald Trump hangs out with Jeffrey Epstein. We know that Donald Trump engaged in all that horrific behavior in his past. We know that Donald Trump was found liable for being a rapist. We know that Donald Trump was found liable for $83.3 million for defaming his rape victim. We know that Donald Trump has committed serious financial fraud over and over again. We know that Donald Trump has been bankrupted over and over again. And let's never be gaslighted by the media with all of those facts. We know that this is someone who is a loser in Trump. He should be disqualified just based on his behavior, from being in any position of leadership if the party had any self-respect, but it doesn't anymore. It's just where the Republican Party is, unfortunately, right now. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million subscribers together. Let's keep growing this community. Oh, share your stories below if your stories are like this. Have a good one.
Hey, Midas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.